Back at it for another exciting day of television entertainment, television information, television fun, and just a little bit of TV as well. Just to throw it in there. Happy Tuesday, second day of July, 2019. I'm Dan Kuntz, your host for Wake Up Wenatchee Valley. Thanks for starting your day with us here on the NCW Life Channel. Big story today is going to be the weather in the overnight hours while you were sleeping. I wasn't, but you were. Basically at 2 o'clock in the morning, the National Weather Service issued a flash flood watch. It's in effect from 11 a.m. This morning through this evening. The watch is in the middle of their scale of importance, I guess. They have advisory, watches, and warnings. Advisories are we're keeping an eye on things. Watches are we kind of think it might happen, and warnings are we're pretty sure it's going to happen. So this is in that middle stage. A flash flood watch begins at 11 o'clock this morning, goes through this evening for pretty much everybody. There's a possibility of some very slow-moving thunderstorms. Now, they could miss us entirely. That's a possibility as well. But if they do come pay us a visit, we could see some heavy rain at times. And, of course, when we see heavy rains like we had last Thursday, that could mean flash flooding in many locations. Basically, the farther north you are, the more in danger you are of a flash flood. So up in the Okanagan, Omak area, up in Chelan perhaps, and in the Methow Valley, you have an increased chance of a flash flood as opposed to down here in the Wenatchee Valley. There's a slow-moving, low-pressure system that's kind of sitting there, and it's just gathering all this moisture and bringing it up from the south. So we've been warned. Flash flood watch is in effect. We'll talk more about that when we get to the weather forecast. We also have that all-important news to get to. Sports, not a lot of sports to get to. We'll be previewing the upcoming series between the Wenatchee Apple Sox and the Kelowna Falcons. They're back in action tonight after taking yesterday off. And the Seattle Mariners will take on the St. Louis Cardinals in interleague play at T-Mobile Park. We'll preview that. And don't forget the World Cup semifinals is today at noon. So we have some sports to get to, but not a lot. We also have the obscure holiday, today in history, birthdays, and everybody is entitled to my Magnati's opinion. And we're going to rerun the interview that I did a couple weeks ago with Bonnie Orr. Bonnie came in on the summer solstice back on June 21st to talk about the do's and don'ts for your garden and your lawn as we enter summer full bore. And it was a very informational, entertaining talk, so we thought we'd play that for you again. My conversation with Bonnie Orr from a couple of weeks ago will be in the second half of the program. It's a beautiful morning, 64 degrees. We had all those clouds that came in late yesterday afternoon and the evening hours, so it held the heat in, which is why it's so mild. 64, it was 54 at this time yesterday. So let's go ahead and take you around North Central Washington with our Valley View cameras. Once again, the cross camera does the honors of batting lead off, if you apologize the baseball analogy. And again, it's just a friendly reminder of how much this area has grown in the last 20 years, in the last 10 years. The orchards are going away, and the housing developments are going in. Not a lot of open space, especially on the Wenatchee side of the Columbia, is left much anymore. And even those that do have open spaces are being built up. People have discovered our little hamlet. It is what it is, and well, that's a perfect example of why people want to live here. I mean, that's not gorgeous or what? It's easy to get around. Who's kidding who? People complain about the traffic, but we got it easy. And of course, we got the mighty Columbia River as the lifeblood of the valley. No Columbia River, no Wenatchee Valley, if you think about it. Camera 2, where are we off to, Megan? Megan gets to decide. She gets to say, we're going to go see our friends in Cashmere. I believe that's our Appalachians camera. We have that pointed up the Cashmere Valley quite a bit. You can see Mount Steins. You can see Steins Hill. You can see the hills surrounding beautiful Cashmere. And most of downtown Cashmere is plain in view. And, of course, lots of orchards hanging around there. We got a little update on how the cherries did after Thursday's rainstorm. We'll get to that when we get to news. Good morning, Cashmere. Thanks for starting your day with us. Camera 3, where are we off to, Megan? We're going to do a slow dissolve and say hello and good morning to that area there. Is that the Waterville camera? Oh, that's Rude Canyon. I should have known that. You got to quit moving those things around on me. That's the problem. Well, you can. That's the cool thing about these cameras. Good morning, Rude Canyon, which, of course, was named after our 7th Vice President, John Canyon. Beautiful shot there. Lots of trees, everybody hanging around. You can see the high clouds. They're going to be thickening up. Camera 4, what do we have? It is Jump Off Ridge, the Stamil Basin. Right at taking up most of your screen, in the lower part of your screen, the Stamil Basin, as their orchards are hanging around there. You can see Wenatchee Heights. It's actually above Wenatchee Heights, and way off in the distance, the Wenatchee Valley proper, and a great view of Sunny Slope and Birch Mountain, Badger Mountain. That's way up there, that camera. at Jump Off Ridge. It's quite the trip to get there, but it's well worth it once you're there on Jump Off Ridge. There's a lot of towers and relays and transmitters and things like that, but don't bother because they're all fenced off with security cameras and things like that. So just stay away. Just look at that view and be happy with that. Our views from around the valley with our high-definition PTZ cameras, courtesy of Localtel's Sky-Fi high-speed wireless. And by the way, we got some new cameras coming your way. I'm talking about you, Columbia Basin. We'll be paying you a high-definition visit very, very soon. Looking forward to that. Getting those ducks in a row. 6 minutes after the hour from the National Weather Service, here is your forecast. And as I mentioned, we have a flash flood watch. I'll show you a map of what you can be expecting on that. Hey, that's me. I'm your host. Is that are those balloons? I thought that looks like 3 strawberries. They're balloons. That's nice. I like that. Nice touch, Megan. A little creativity there. Again, we got some slow-moving thunderstorms, so we could see some heavy rainfall, but we may miss it entirely. Take a look. There's your map for the flash flood watch. It begins at 11 o'clock this morning. They don't really have an ending time. They just say sometime tonight. So you can see the Wenatchee Valley is at the bottom end of this. As these clouds and these slow-moving thunderstorms that will bring us the threat of showers today and a little bit into Wednesday, they're going to build up in intensity as they work their way north, which is why the farther north you are, the better chances you are of being involved in a thunderstorm, which means a flash flood. Winthrop is right in the bullseye. So again, the farther north you go, the better chance you are that you could see some scattered showers and thunderstorms. Most of them will be in the hottest part of the day, which will be 2, 3, 4 o'clock this afternoon. High today of only 80. That's considerably cooler than yesterday. We had 88 on Monday, and 80 is actually below normal. Our normal high for July 2nd is 83 degrees. By the way, sunrise at 5:09, sunset at 9:01. That gives us 15 hours and 52 minutes of daylight. So scattered showers possible, thunderstorms possible. We could miss all of it, or we could get some heavy thunderstorms. That's why we have the flash flood watch. Now, it should be tapering off. Any kind of rain that we get will be tapering off as the evening goes on. We'll start out with cloudy skies, but by the time you're asleep, the clouds will be exiting the area. A little windy at times today, a little windy at times tonight, but that's going to set us up for a nice stretch of weather beginning Wednesday. Mostly sunny and a high of 83 degrees on Independence Day. Lots of sunshine and a high of 86. That's just about perfect for the 4th of July. It's going to be sunny and warm, but not too hot. I can live with that. I remember some, not too recent Independence Day celebrations where it was just scorching hot. 90s to near 100. We're not going to have to worry about that on Thursday. Friday, sunshine, 89, 87 Saturday. Lots of sunshine, a couple of passing clouds on Sunday. And on into Monday, temperatures just slightly above normal. Again, the big story today, flash flood watch for most of our viewing areas. The farther north you go, the better the odds are that you're going to find some thunderstorms and some scattered showers. And when you get in those areas that are burn scars, the Antioch Valley, the Chelan area, where there's really not a lot of vegetation to hold the soil to the earth, that's when we're talking about some flash floods. It's a possibility. It's just that low pressure system is just taking its sweet time getting out of here. I think it's like the people. It likes to hang around the Wenatchee Valley. We may miss this altogether here in the valley. We may. Again, the farther north, the better chance you are of maybe having a significant thunderstorm. And therefore, we have that flash flood watch from 11 o'clock this morning to they don't know when. They don't have an expiration date on that. If they change their mind between now and 8 o'clock, we'll let you know. It's 9 minutes after the hour. We're getting ready to take a break. Before we do so, we want to thank our friends at Confluence Health for being a part of our television team. Confluence Health, dedicated to providing safe, high-quality care for everybody in North Central Washington. Thanks for sponsoring this program. Grab your cup of coffee, your orange juice, your English muffin, your omelet, your pancake, your bacon, your eggs. I'm hungry. And come back and see me in 1 minute. We got the news coming your way. You're watching Wake Up Wenatchee Valley live this morning from Studio 15 in downtown Wenatchee on the NCW Life Channel.
When the people you serve are your friends and family, you see the world a bit differently. You understand that your survival depends on the health and strength of your relationships. Your word is your reputation, and that doing the right thing is the only way of life that matters. At Confluence Health, we remain humble. Trust is a gift that is earned, a privilege, an honor. And we remain grateful for the trust you place in our hands.
What's your auto mocha emergency?
It's a Faprito mocha with whip.
The espresso shakes are my most favorite because I can get any flavor. Peanut butter chocolate for pita.
Definitely espresso shakes.
My favorite is the mocha for pitas.
A peach Red Bull.
Welcome back. 11 minutes after the hour, we have fair skies, a few high clouds, and we're sitting at 64 degrees. And once again, there is a flash flood watch in effect for all of our viewing areas, especially to the north of us from 11 o'clock this morning until later on this evening. We could see some significant thunderstorms here in the Wenatchee Valley, or they may miss us completely. That's the nature of thunderstorms. Here's what's making headlines on this Tuesday. For the second time this year, there were serious injuries when jet skis collided on Moses Lake. Brent Behrens of Bellingham was taken to a Spokane hospital Saturday after his jet ski crashed into a personal watercraft being ridden by a vacation companion. The other jet skier was not injured. The Grand County Sheriff's Office says Behrens is suspected of boating while intoxicated. Back in May, 27-year-old Andre Ann Rice was killed in a jet ski collision with a relative on the lake near Blue Heron Park. Idaho-based Coleman Oil has agreed to a settlement over its 2017 spill of 3,800 gallons of biodiesel into the Columbia River from its Wenatchee plant that you see there. Originally fined $189,000 by the State Department of Ecology, Coleman will have his fine reduced to $170,000. They'll pay $65,000 of that for habitat restoration. In addition, the company must complete facility upgrades to its Pateros and Dayton plants. An investigation found the fuel had leaked for more than 3 months from a corroded underground pipe. The facility on South Wenatchee has since been decommissioned. Well, a 24-year-old man has been accused of firing several shots during a fight involving several people outside of a Bridgeport bar. This happened early Sunday morning. Aiden Torres Gomez was arrested at his Bridgeport home after Douglas County Sheriff's deputies responded to the fight and gunshots outside the El Paradiso restaurant and bar. Nobody was injured by the gunshots, but some of the people involved in the fight had to be treated for minor injuries. Well, Washington State Department of Fish and Wildlife Director Kelly Susswind and Regional Director Jim Brown are praising the collaborative efforts of the Public-Private Stimmelt Partnership and its work in the Stephens Meadow area of the Stimmelt Basin. They say the project is helping to achieve landscape-scale forest health through the efforts of local, state, and federal land managers. Regional Director Jim Brown comments on the project's success following a recent visit to Chelan County.
So we're in the Stimmelt Basin today, interlocking land ownership with DNR and Chelan County and DFW. There's a lot of good work that's going on here and a lot of partnerships. We're part of the Stimmelt Partnership, which is a local community-based collaborative of various interests, from irrigation groups to sportsman groups to private citizens that have an interest in protecting this area, but yet keeping it open for recreation while providing for wildlife and water resource values. A lot of the water that's up here actually winds up irrigating the orchard land down below us. It's a great opportunity for us to work together and meet multiple needs and multiple uses on the landscape.
This is a meadow restoration project that was done to fix some damage that was occurring in the meadow from the presence of a road and from illegal 4x4ing in the meadow. It was a joint project between Chelan County and Department of Fish and Wildlife with funding from Department of Ecology and Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation. The road surface was decompacted and seeded with native grass seeds and trees and shrub species, and then covered with straw mulch to help the regeneration of the grass seeds. And now we're watching the meadow fill back in.
The Stephens Meadow Restoration Project, made possible, as was mentioned, with further support from the Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation, the Wenatchee Sportsmen's Association, and the Washington State Department of Ecology. Well, Chelan County's agricultural industry appears to be embracing a new state-sanctioned program that provides an alternative approach to protecting the environment. The county was one of two in the state that were selected to pilot the Voluntary Stewardship Program. Commissioner Bob Boogert says it was designed as a way to return local control to the state's Growth Management Act.
Back 10 years or so ago, Chelan County and Thurston County were two that applied for and were selected as the pilot projects to try that out. And so there's been a very dedicated work group of growers here in the community that have been working on that, facilitated through our Department of Natural Resources. And they're at the point now where they think they have a product that will really work for people that can come up with voluntary ways to protect and enhance their farmland and to protect natural resources.
Examples of beneficial conservation practices including the use of micro and ground level drip systems, integrated pest management, cover crops, mulching and soil management, installing raptor poles and bat boxes, installing plantings to attract pollinators, and installing plastic fencing to protect orchards. Speaking of orchards, it appears that last Thursday's rain and winds caused only minor damage to our area's cherry crop. The harvest in the Wenatchee Valley is in full swing, and the ripened fruit is susceptible to storm damage such as splitting and bruising. Northwest Cherry Growers Group President B.J. Thurby tells the Capitol Press that some growers in the Wenatchee area held off on picking to allow their fruit to dry. He said cooler temperatures helped decrease the threat of cherry splitting. This year's Northwest Cherry harvest is expected to be the third largest in history. The Capitol Press reporting Northwest Packers had shipped 7.3 million boxes of cherries from June 6th through the 27th, with more than 500,000 boxes shipped a day during that period. And finally, this morning, Cashmere was the place to be this last weekend for the 41st annual Founders Day celebration. Here with more details from the happenings over the weekend, our very own Kyle Montgomery.
The beautiful weather wasn't the only thing brightening up Cashmere this past weekend, as the city celebrated their 41st annual Founders Day with 2 evenings of festivities. Since 1979, Cashmere has honored the members of their founding families who first settled the region with a 2-day event that puts on family-oriented activities that please community members and visitors. The weekend event featured different kinds of street vendors, music, and entertainment the first night before the Dones Valley Pharmacy ping pong ball drop began Saturday evening in Riverside Park. The citizens then lined the streets of downtown Cashmere for the hour-long Crunch Pack Grand Parade that featured numerous floats from businesses, clubs, and organizations around the Wenatchee Valley. The celebration comes from the idea of business owners and community members who decided on the 75th year of Kashmir's anniversary to evolve into what they have now known for over 40 years as Founders Day. The small town will continue to honor their founding families every year with the Founders Day celebration and grand parade and hope to add more events in the coming years. With NCW Life News, I'm Kyle Montgomery.
Thank you much, Kyle, for that report. Looks like you had a pretty good time on Saturday afternoon. Well, the news team is a bit short-staffed this week, but we're going to crank out a newscast anyway. Grant Olson with the news. I'll be handling what little sports that we have. And I'll come your way at 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock, and 10 o'clock tonight. 5, 6, and 10, the news with Grant Olson. What happened on this Tuesday? We'll let you know in a tidy little package we like to call the evening news, because you have to call it something. You can watch it on television, or as we like to say in the business, TV, at 5, 6, and 10. You can also watch it online at ncwlife.com, and we'd love to see you check it out. It's a pretty good little newscast. We like it anyway. The bottom of your screen is all the ways you can get a hold of us. You can pick up the telephone and give us a call and give us a news tip. You can go to our website, ncwlife.com, and submit a comment or a news tip that way. You can't miss that icon. It's in the upper right-hand corner of your screen when you visit our website right on the home page. You can drop us a line via our Facebook page. And be sure to like us while you're there and Facebook message us if you got something on your mind, or you can just drop us an email, news@ncwlife.com. 22 minutes after the hour, if you're just joining us, we have a flash flood watch in effect for most of north central Washington. Goes into effect at 11 o'clock this morning till, well, whenever. They don't have an expiration date on it. So we could see some pretty dramatic thunderstorms, and that means heavy rain, which means we could see some flash flooding in most of our viewing areas. The farther north you go, especially in the Methow Valley and in the Okanagan, Omak area, the better chance you have of some significant thunderstorms and rain. It may miss the Wenatchee Valley altogether. It's a possibility anyway. We'll keep a close eye on that. Going to take a break. When we come back, sports, the obscure holiday today in history, birthdays. Everyone is entitled to Mike McNarty's opinion. And my conversation with Bonnie Orr, the do's and don'ts for summertime gardening, all coming up between now and the top of the hour. You're watching Wake Up Wenatchee Valley, live this morning from Studio 8 in downtown Wenatchee on the NCW Life channel.
I told Miss Nielsen about Simon. He's the best doctor because I like the medicines like he gives me.
He asks like more questions, and that's why I feel like he's more interested in the health. For me, it means a lot. That means he really cares about, about him.
I like you, Simon, and you're my best friend.
Hi, I'm Kevin Prosser, and this is my print shop, Color Effects in Kashmir. Color Effects offers screen printing, embroidery, and digital printing on t-shirts, jerseys, bags, banners, signs, and more. With 30 years experience, you won't be disappointed with the quality and quick turnaround times you will get at more than a fair price. Please call Color FX.
Welcome back. I'm Dan Kuntz, 24 minutes after the hour on the second day of July. Mariners and Apple Sox had the day off yesterday. I wish I did. But now they're back to the diamond. We'll start with the Wenatchee Apple Sox. We're back at home at Paul Thomas Senior Stadium for a 3-game set against their North Division rivals, the Kelowna Falcons, who, as you see there, are bringing up the bottom of the standings. The Sox are coming off a 6-game road trip that saw them lose all 3 games at Victoria. Before, they took 2 of 3 from Cowlitz over the weekend. The Falcons, by the way, are coming off back-to-back losses to the league-leading Harbor Cats on Saturday and Sunday. So there are 6 games left in the first half of the season. As you see, the Sox are tied for third percentage-wise with Port Angeles. They're 6 1/2 games behind Victoria. After Kelowna, by the way, Wenatchee wraps up the first half with 3 games at Bend, and then they take on the Elks at home to begin the second half of the season 1 week from today. That's the Apple Sox. As far as the Mariners are concerned, they welcome the St. Louis Cardinals to T-Mobile Park for a 3-game interleague series. It begins tonight. It's just the 16th time these two teams have faced each other. The Cardinals lead the all-time series 9-6. The Mariners are on a 4-game losing streak after being swept over the weekend by the Astros in Houston. St. Louis, they have dropped 5 of their last 6. The Mariners will go with an opener, Matt Caracity, and while the Cardinals will counter with a real starting pitcher, Jack Flaherty. The first pitch, by the way, is at 7:10. And don't forget, the U.S. national team will take on England today. It's the semifinals of the FIFA Women's World Cup. It's at 12 noon in beautiful Paris. The winner will play the winner of the other semifinal game, which will be held tomorrow. That's Sweden against the Netherlands. The championship, by the way, is on Sunday morning at 8 o'clock. The third and fourth place game is on Saturday morning at 8 o'clock. Again, the USA and England, they'll start playing at noon today. Check local listings. That's sports at 26 minutes after the hour. June 2nd is I Forgot Day. I Forgot Day. If you are a forgetful person, you forget anniversaries, you forget birthdays, you forget special occasions, milestones, even forgetting to bring milk home on your way back from work, and you get a call, can you bring home a gallon of milk, and you forget to even do that. This is the holiday you should be celebrating. How do you celebrate I Forgot Day? You know what? I wrote down a bunch of notes and now I forgot. I'm kidding. Acknowledge the fact that you can be a forgetful person sometimes. Make up for all the anniversaries and birthdays that you missed. Send out all the cards at once. That's not a bad idea. On January 1st, mail all the cards for the entire year right then and there. Then you can say, I didn't forget your birthday in July, now did I? Online calendars are a great tool. I mean, they're indispensable to me. I have my online calendar, of course, on my phone, and it reminds me of all these things. According to some scientists, walking through doors creates memory lapses. This has happened to everybody. Oh yes, I'm going to do this right now, and you start walking and you go through a hallway, through a door, and then you go, what was I doing? Psychologists believe that when people walk through a door or go from one room to another, that transition indicates that, to the brain anyway, that the scene has now changed and all the information gathered in the previous room that reminded you to go into the room that you just went into is no longer valid. That's what they think. I think. I forgot. Happy I Forgot Day, always celebrated on June 2nd, today in history. Anybody seen Amelia Earhart? She disappeared 82 years ago today, July 2nd, 1937. Don't forget there were 2 people on board the plane. Amelia Earhart was flying the plane. Fred Noonan was the navigator. They were last heard from over the Pacific Ocean. They said they were running out of fuel. They were trying to fly around the world via the equator. Never made it. Amelia Earhart disappeared 82 years ago today. There are rumors that she crash landed on some tropical deserted island or things like that she'd lived for quite some time. The Pacific Ocean holds no secrets. I think she met her maker on this date 82 years ago today. 78 years ago today, July 2nd, 1941, it was a sweltering day at Yankee Stadium, 52,852 in attendance. Center fielder Joe DiMaggio hit a 3-run home run off Red Sox pitcher Dick Newsom in the 5th inning, and that made his hitting streak at 45 games to set the all-time record, breaking Willie Keeler's record of 44. Joe DiMaggio set the hitting record with 45 in a row on this date 78 years ago today, and we haven't heard the last of this over the next couple of weeks. July 2nd, 1962, 57 years ago today, the very first Walmart store opened. There's the flyer from the local newspaper, the grand opening of Walmart in Rogers, Arkansas. Walmart, the very first store, opened 57 years ago today. It is still there. How's Walmart doing, by the way? Is it caught on? People into that? Happy birthday to Walmart. And the Civil Rights Movement celebrated a milestone on this date 54 years ago today. July 2nd, 1964, U.S. President Lyndon Baines Johnson, actually it was 55 years ago today, LBJ signed the Civil Rights Act of 1964 to prevent all segregation in all public places. It was a battle, but they won, and it became the law on this date back in 1964. Speaking of civil rights, 2 civil rights icons celebrate birthdays today. I'm talking about Thurgood Marshall, the 86th Associate Justice. Lindsay, there he is. There's Thurgood. Lindsay Lohan celebrates her birthday today. Lindsay Lohan is not on the Supreme Court. Not yet, anyway. Thurgood Marshall, the 86th Associate Justice of the United States Supreme Court, born in the state in 1908, passed away at the age of 84 in 1993. Of course, the first African-American ever to sit on the court. He was the founder of the NAACP Legal Defense Fund. It was known as the AIC Fund. He argued many, many cases in front of the Supreme Court and won almost all of them. And eventually he sat on the court himself. He was born in the state in 1908. Medgar Evers was born in the state in 1925. He was assassinated at the age of 37 in 1963. He worked as the field secretary of the NAACP in Mississippi, which in the early 1960s was pretty much a death sentence. And for his work in civil rights, he was killed, assassinated by a white supremacist and a member of the Ku Klux Klan. Medgar Evers, born in the state in 1925. Richard Petty, the King, is 82 years old today. He, along with Dale Earnhardt and Jimmy Johnson, have won more NASCAR Series championships than anybody else, 7 of them. He won 200 races exactly in his remarkable career, more than anybody else. He won 27 races in 1 year in 1967. Statistically, probably the most accomplished driver in the history of NASCAR, known forever as the King. Richard Petty is 82 years old today. And finally, Supreme Court Justice Lindsay Lohan celebrates her 33rd birthday today. She'll be celebrating her birthday by watching a DVD of The Parent Trap. Happy birthday, Lindsay Lohan. Going to take a break. When we come back, Mike McNally's opinion on my conversation with Bonnie Orr from a couple of weeks ago. What to do and not to do for your garden and lawn for the summer. It's all coming up. You're watching Wake Up Wenatchee Valley on the NCW Live channel.
Being able to support yourself and your family is an important part of who we are. We all need to know we're able to provide ourselves with a secure future. Some job seekers have a harder time finding work. That's why Goodwill's Employment Connection Center is here, a free walk-in job search assistance program designed to help people find work. When you shop at or donate to Goodwill, you're really being a job creator, and that's a good thing for everyone's future. Goodwill. There's more behind the store.
When you think of Doghouse Motorsports, you might think of motorcycles, but there's a lot more in this house. How about Honda Power Equipment? From snowblowers to lawnmowers to generators and even water pumps, Honda is the brand that sets the standards. Perhaps you need an ATV or UTV. The Doghouse has the largest selection anywhere. Did we mention watercraft and snowmobiles? And of course, we have motorcycles too. Back it up with terrific customer service and you have Wenatchee's best motorsports store 5 years running. Isn't it time for you to be in the Doghouse?
Hey, this is Mike Mad Dog Magnotti, and everybody is entitled to my opinion. Now, did you ever notice that hearing loss is the only physical disability which the person who is suffering from hearing loss is blamed and yelled at because of this disability? Now, think about it. Who shows disrespect to a blind person because they can't see? Who disdains the physical shortcoming of an amputee? Do we blame a person who is paralyzed from the waist down for being in a wheelchair? No, of course not. But just wait. Just wait until somebody's hearing starts to go, and brother, oh, is that different? If you have to say what, come again, or huh, because you don't hear something, people get mad at you. Now, how much sense does that make? So, my hearing's going, and my family's insisting I get hearing aids. Ain't gonna do it. And you know why? Because I've already heard enough. This is Mike Mad Dog Magnotti, and that's my opinion.
Find it all at Wenatchee Valley Mall. There's something for all ages at Wenatchee Valley Mall. No matter what the weather, the kids will have fun in one of the many play areas around the mall. Sign your kids up for fun adventures and super specials when they join the Kids Club. It's a great time for kids and an even better time out for parents. Check out specials and events 24/7 at WenatcheeValleyMall.com. It's your Wenatchee Valley Mall. Come shop today. And we are back. The summer solstice is almost here, 8:54 this morning. It's when summer arrives. We've been due to spring. It's been a very good spring, all things considered. But now it's time to think about summer, the things you need to know about keeping your yard and garden in good shape, healthy and happy during the summer months. And to join me as she does 4 times a year, whether it be an equinox or a solstice, is my friend from Green Thumbs and Dirty Knees. It's Bonnie Yard!
Hello.
Listen to the crowd. I love you.
Well, we have to indulge in the light.
Yes.
16 hours of light.
Yes.
And then we go back into the dark.
But I mentioned this at the start of the show. We actually have 15 hours and 57 minutes of daylight, Bonnie. But it's going to stay that way for really about 10 days.
Yeah.
Sunrise just a little bit after 5, sunset just a little bit after 9. So it's not going to be a big dramatic
No, it's
deal.
not.
But
we might as well indulge
Yeah.
because we are at the end of the growing light. I love the growing light.
Yeah. So before we get into the summertime stuff, spring in your garden anyway. Bonnie's got one of the best gardens you'll find anywhere. Good year so far. Everybody happy? All the plants and vegetables.
Well, you know,
and everything?
we had that period of heat, that 10 days of, and that really bothered the plants. And some of the plants grew very vigorously, and some of them went, oh my gosh, it's too early to be this hot. And especially tomatoes, we'll talk about tomatoes later on, okay? But yeah, my flowers are beautiful. What else? Yeah.
My grass yard is doing fantastic. I do what you've advised me to do. I did the tuna fish can thing.
And we're going to talk about that later
Yeah.
also, I hope.
But I think the heat actually helped my yard.
Yes.
I water early in the morning, right before sunrise, and I know exactly where to do it, and it's super happy. It's just doing really good right now.
Well, actually, the severe heat actually slows the lawn down.
Okay.
Okay, anything over 90, anything over 85, really, most plants go,
And I haven't been watering in the wind. We've had quite a bit of wind lately, and it seems to me it's just a waste of time.
Oh, it absolutely is. Yeah, especially when it's warm and windy. Yeah.
Because you want to be real specific. You want to pinpoint where you want the water to go and not go in those conditions. Let's start in the order of our notes. Cherry, fruit fly, and codling moth.
This is the time of the year when backyard fruit growers must take care of it. I mean, not only is a law, it is just common sense. Who wants to eat a cherry with a little larva in it? A little extra protein?
Really.
But the thing is, you have to continue your spray program, and it can be either organic or conventional. It must be continued until every piece of fruit is off the tree. So if you've picked all the cherries you want, then you need to strip the tree.
Do a lot of people still have just the stray backyard cherry tree that they inherited, or an apricot tree or whatever?
They like the shade.
Okay.
They like the shade, but it is a problem taking care of it, and you have to do a regular spray regimen.
Now, do people go out and inspect it? People from governmental agencies said this.
There are times when the agricultural pest people do go out and put traps in a tree if it looks like the tree is not being taken care of.
Do they know the houses that have just one cherry tree from maybe that was left over from an old?
Absolutely, because you can take an aerial picture of the entire valley on April 15th and see where the cherry trees are in bloom. I mean,
it's as simple as that.
It's as simple as that.
We could use one of our high definition PTZ cameras.
That's right. Anyway, they know where every cherry tree is.
For the uninitiated,
and where every apple tree is.
Yeah, exactly. For those people who have just one cherry tree in their yard, but they didn't know about this. Say they just bought the house like last winter. And
that's right.
How do they go about? Oh, I'm sorry, Bonnie, I didn't know. How do I go about taking care of these things?
My first question would be, do you want 300 pounds of cherries? And my second one was, I know somebody who has a chainsaw. Okay? Because it is a lot of work taking care of these. It must be done on a regular basis, like every 10 days. It depends on what products you're using. And you have to do it. It is a lot of work. And if your tree is really tall, you cannot do it by hand.
Yeah. I had a neighbor who had a backyard apricot tree, and she just got tired of taking care of it. And finally,
but apricots are not as serious.
Not as serious.
Cherries and apples are absolutely required by law.
But on the other hand, if she didn't come and pick all the apricots, which would get ripe within days of each other.
That's right, hundreds of pounds.
And they start falling on the ground, and then the birds come. And
the yellow jackets and yada, yada, yada.
If you don't want one, get rid of it. That would be my...
Take care of your trees. It makes everybody happy.
Now, noxious weeds.
Yes.
There you go. We're going to start out with the diffuse snapweed, and you've seen these all over North Central Washington.
Okay, and they are just starting to bloom right now.
Yeah.
I've seen them in the cracks in sidewalks. I've seen them up against fences, in alleyways. And this one, it is starting to spread, and we would really like to have this one controlled. It is easy to control this time of year. There's a rosette at the bottom. Now this one has already started to bloom, and most of them are. You need to pull it up before those seeds are set.
Okay.
Okay, and it's a matter of just being watchful on the perimeter of your property. One of the places I often see it is where the mail truck drives along. Or where the garbage truck goes along, because they just pick up the seeds as they make their rounds all over the city.
And that is how the seeds are spread.
Yeah. So, and these things, you can literally pull them out of the ground counterclockwise.
They're actually easy to pull.
They're easy to pull.
They don't resist. And you and I are old school. When you have a weed, you pull it. You don't round up it and let it.
It's a waste of product.
Yeah, it is. It's a waste of product.
You know, the interesting thing about the weed seeds are so persistent. I had a 3-inch piece of tumbleweed, Russian thistle, that blew into my yard during the winter. And this spring, early on, I picked it up, that little bristly thing. There were 42 little plants under there out of that teeny piece.
Jeez.
Yeah. So, the seed productions is in the thousands for each plant.
And that's true of any noxious weed, almost by rule of thumb. Once they get a toehold, they go.
Yeah, because they can be distributed, by the wind, too.
And of course, everybody knows goat heads.
Yeah, one of our least favorite everything.
I hate those things.
There it is. And it's already starting to spread, and it's probably just getting to that stage right now.
And just like the knapweed, they will grow almost anywhere that they can find a spot to go.
In disturbed land.
Yep.
And this one is really wonderful. You can roll it up, put on gloves. You roll it up, and then you just twist it out of the soil and put it in a plastic bag and put it in the trash.
How do you know it's a goat head before the goat heads actually develop so you can pull it early on?
Okay, so because this one has already started its outward tendril growth, it would just be the little center part, and it's called a rosette.
And again, don't spray it with gunk, just pull it.
Yeah, because you know something?
Yeah.
If you spray it with gunk, the seeds are still there.
Yeah, that's the problem.
But even the half-ripe seeds will continue to ripen.
We did a Green Thumbs and Dirty Knees episode about goat heads and noxious weeds a couple of years ago, and we did it at a vacant lot in East Wenatchee. And when we were all done, and before we sat into Bonnie's car, the bottom of all of our shoes was coated with goat heads.
Yeah.
And that's what they do.
Yeah.
That's what they do. Are the goat heads? You guys still get together and do your little riverfront trail?
Well, there's the Goat Head Warriors,
Uh-huh.
Doug's and yes, they are still doing it, and they're really doing a good job on the trail.
That's good.
Yeah, I commend them for doing that.
Because they'll pop the tires on your bikes.
Yeah.
They're
getting
pets.
the dog feet. Yeah.
Oh, it's just they're
terrible.
They're just miserable.
Yeah.
The bad thing about goat heads is that a lot of people think that they're aesthetically pleasing. I mean, they're kind of, as weeds go, as weeds go, they're kind of attractive.
They are.
They have little yellow
are.
flowers.
Well, Dalmatian toadflax is the same way. It looks like little snapdragons. I mean,
but it's the same deal. You don't want them hanging around. Tree of Heaven. This is kind of a two-part conversation here. These things grow unbelievably fast. My neighbor has one of these. Obviously, it's he didn't plant it.
It's a trash tree.
It's a trash tree, but boy, they just take off.
Do you remember there was a movie and a book that came out in the late 40s called A Tree Grows in Brooklyn, and this was the tree.
Yeah.
Okay, growing in an unwanted place, and this tree it smells bad. It spreads by runners. It spreads by seed. And the reason that we are really concerned about this tree is that there is a now this tree came from China, okay? And actually it was brought as an ornamental because it was so beautiful in color in the fall. There is a bad insect coming from China that has sneaked its way in, on wooden pallets and things like
Shipping
that.
containers.
Shipping containers. And on the East Coast, it has become a scourge. And this spotted lantern fly, which is it's a giant leaf hopper. And it has beautiful red wings, and it eats anything. It eats grapes. It eats apples. It eats cherries. It eats any fruit in your garden.
Voraciously.
And it uses the tree of heaven as a host tree to lay its eggs on. And so if we get rid of all of the extra ones we do not want, we would be miles ahead of not having a place for that insect to make a home.
Nobody ever plants trees of heaven, right? They kind of just find a place to grow and...
You know, I have not seen them for sale in a garden center, but I read a really interesting research project where they watched the spread of the tree of heaven from the 1850s across the United States, and it followed the railway lines.
Okay.
Because the seeds would fall into the wheels of the train, or on the tops of the cars, and it was spread, and it would literally start along the railway line and then spread north and south from there.
So these things get very big very quickly.
Yes.
How do you get rid of them? Do you have? I mean, these things are. If you don't pay any attention, they're going to take off, and then you have a real problem just getting rid of the darn thing.
Well, you can talk to Dale Whaley, in Waterville with the extension, but you can use herbicides, and especially on the suckers, which will go back and kill the tree, or you just use a chainsaw. But if you do that, you still have to herbicide the trunk and all of the new suckers that are coming
And
up.
will that do it? Because I had at a house I previously owned, we had a tree of heaven. It was growing between two garages. We didn't like it. We cut it down. We herbicided. We drilled a hole in the leftover trunk, and we did all that stuff. And the sucker just came right back, right next to it. Another one just came up.
I think you have to be persistent.
Okay.
Yeah, but anyway, this is a target tree for this year.
Yeah. So there you go. Let's do a little deadheading. And no, we're not talking about the Grateful Dead.
Oh, we aren't?
No.
Oh, it's not Jerry Garcia week?
But with Bonnie, it's always a long, strange trip. Trust me on that one. Let's just do some deadheading and some of the perennials. Let's do it.
Okay, so as the perennials finish, if you trim them back to either the ground with a rosette or else cut off half of the finished stem, you can have another set of flowers in the end of August. The perennial will rebloom. It will not be as vigorous as it was the first time, but it's really nice to see those flowers another time.
If you can get a double bloom in the growing season, you might as well. So.
And then deadheading annuals is really important. Annuals' only job is to create seeds. I mean, you fertilize them every week or every other week, and they just want to put out more flowers. But you do have to cut off the old ones to make sure that they aren't stopping and making seeds, and then go, my job is done. And then this is the time also to I'm not sure about deadheading. I'm going to call it selective pruning of flowering shrubs. Your lilac, mock orange, viburnum. What else? Snowball.
Okay.
Your viburnum snowball. This is the time to reshape them because the new flower buds for next year are going to be set within the next couple of weeks.
Okay.
So this is the time to trim them. Rhodey's the same way.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's the time to reshape a rhodey also.
Bonnie and I have talked about this a lot over the course of Green Thumbs and Dirty Knees, that people have a tendency, and I think it's just been ingrained in them by the chemical companies that make fertilizers, to fertilize everything. Just throw fertilizer on it, and that's a myth, and it's a misconception. People over-fertilize as a general rule of thumb, and right now they shouldn't be doing it at all, right?
Yeah, right, and it washes into the groundwater.
Right.
Okay, so lawns, no more fertilizer. You don't need any more fertilizer till next spring.
Simple as that.
Simple as that. And your annuals, yes, because they're contained in a small area. You definitely don't want to fertilize your tomatoes because your tomatoes should be blooming right now, or new little tomatoes are set. And blossom end rot is the terrible thing that happens to people's tomatoes, and it's from excess fertilizer and irregular water.
Use the manufacturer's instructions. Boy, did we learn that.
Right, but the blue stuff,
yeah,
it shouldn't have barely any color.
Yeah, that's the cool thing. Just read the instructions. A lot of people don't do that, and I know you look at the back of your Miracle Grow or your Ortho or whatever it is, and
it says
all of these
a
instructions.
tablespoons per gallon.
Yeah.
And you go, oh, I think I'll do 1 quart. Yeah.
Don't.
I only have to do it once that way. Well,
Yeah.
you don't.
You don't. But just follow the instructions and you'll be so much better off. We're going to take a break, but before we come back, just a little teaser. Yeah, it's a little cool right now. It's a cool start to summer, but it's the summer in Wenatchee Valley. It's going to get hot, and there's some things that you need to remember when the heat finally comes. We had that warm stretch that Bonnie talked about. Well, we're going to have more than one before this year is over.
I think you're probably right.
More with Bonnie Orr when we come back. You're watching Wake Up Wenatchee Valley on the NCW Live channel.
the YWCA Thrift Store, our mission is to make positive change in the community by giving women and families the tools they need to regain economic stability through work experience and education. Featuring generously donated new and gently used furniture, housewares, clothing, and much more, the YWCA Thrift Store has something for the whole family. Shop, volunteer, or donate with us today.
Lake Chelan Mailboxes is a small place with a lot to offer. Job one is shipping and receiving from A to Z. They pack it, they label it, they ship it. But did you know we also offer notary service, online computer access, legal forms, copies, greeting cards, and of course mailboxes, even passport photos. Chelan Mailboxes, everything you need in one small package.
My name is Anaisa Lemus, and I teach at John Newberry Elementary. I had a tooth in the front that was just always causing me problems. It was just happening so regularly. I went to go get a root canal done, and the root canal didn't help a whole lot because then it came back. Both of my parents went to Dr. Divis's office. They really recommended him because he had done such a great job on their teeth. I went and really have had a really pleasant experience with him. He just made me feel really at ease with everything. He was really confident with what he was doing. He said, you know, this is one of his favorite parts of his job, which really made it easier for me because, you know, when you're really passionate about something, you know, they're going to do a good job. As a teacher, my students, you know, I'll tell them randomly sometimes, oh yeah, with my fake tooth. They're always so shocked. Like, what? It looks like your real tooth. And I'm really happy with the results now.
This is Dr. John Divis. Please call us today.
We are back on Wake Up Wenatchee Valley on this, the first day of summer, the first day of summer. The summer solstice. Why can't I say that? It happens in just a couple of minutes, and then we get right into summertime. Although we've had a couple of cool days, it's going to get hot. As I mentioned at the top of the interview with Bonnie, my yard is doing fantabulous because I know what to do, because I paid attention to you. If your yard isn't doing so fantabulous right now, we're talking about just a grass lawn. What can they do to turn that around?
Well, you can call the Master Gardeners at 667-6540. That's one of the things you can do if you're having problems. But you know, part of it is just being aware of what's happening in your yard. I was at a friend's yard yesterday, and there's brown spots in his lawn. And he couldn't figure out what it was. But it turned out that there are shrubs that have been growing vigorously in front of the sprinkler.
So the sprinkler it was just hitting the shrub.
That's right. And so go out and see what your flow is like. You know, take your cup of coffee out and run the system and see what the flow is like. And also, what you want to do is make sure your heads are open and working, because sometimes insects get into them, and it's much better to have that before you find out a dead spot.
Does a lot of it depend on your source of water, as opposed, say, like the irrigation canals have a tendency to have more things in them that can clog up your sprinkler system?
It depends
as
on
opposed
how good
to
your
like
filters.
city water.
I don't know. It depends on how effective your filter system is. Okay. I have really dirty ditch water, and I'm able to keep ahead of it. And part of the thing is I check them carefully, and if you have emitters and things, you need to make sure that they're working. Yeah, that's one of the things. And the other thing about preparing for heat is that you want to use mulch, because, okay, you can use 4 inches of mulch to suppress weeds, and mulch can be chopped up brown leaves, lawn clippings. And if you put out lawn clippings, you have to put them out, you know, probably about 4 times during the season. But 2 to 3 inches is enough to be able to keep water in the soil, and it'll prevent as much evaporation, and that's a good deal.
What's the school of thought when you mow your lawn, as opposed to you put it in the grass catcher and you dump it in your garbage can, as opposed to mulch it and chew it up and leave it there?
Oh, yeah, well, okay, that's one of the ways that what happens is that grass leaves are 90% water, so they're just going to evaporate. And you also get your fertilizer back into your lawn rather than cutting off your fertilizer and throwing it away.
Right.
But I'm thinking of your vegetable gardens and your flower beds and making sure that they are that way. You also want to mow deeper, I think. 2.5 to 3 inches high is really good during the heat, because the crowns don't burn out.
Exactly.
And also, it outcompetes weeds.
Yeah, and that's the most important thing. If you have a healthy lawn, you don't have to worry about weeds because the lawn itself will choke the weeds off, and they can't get going at all.
Sometimes people will ask me about, they go, oh, there's all these weeds in my lawn. And I'll say, is your lawn sort of spotty? You know, and it could be that it hasn't been thatched. It could be that it's not watered or fertilized on a regular basis. And so the weeds go, open space, I'm moving in here right now.
In, baby.
And this is when, you know, when crabgrass occurs is when your lawn is not as healthy. Crabgrass seldom gets into a good lawn. And also, you know, if you forgot to do that pre-emergent in the spring, well, it comes back and bites you now.
Bonnie, we've got a couple minutes left. Let's talk tomatoes.
Tomatoes, everybody loves tomatoes. Yes. And here's the deal. They're going to have a hard time this next week because our nights are going to be below 60. And tomatoes like it 60 to 89. That's it.
They're very temperamental.
They are very temperamental, and they will not set fruit when it's too warm and when it's too cold. So you may see that there's lots of flowers and no fruit set this week, or the things will fall off. And there's nothing you can do about it.
March 21st, everybody flocked to their local garden center. Now it's June 21st, not so much. Can you get good deals? What do you need to, what's the do's and don'ts going to a garden center?
I always talk about the going to a garden center with orphan care. Okay. These are plants which nobody bought.
Right.
But I've always really wanted one of those. And it has probably been in a container for some time. It has probably bloomed and finished blooming, and so there's dead dead flowers on it. So what you're going to do is, if you choose to buy one of these, and they're perfectly good plants, you take them out of the pot and you totally wash them clean. No dirt left on, and you spread the roots out. You cut them back by about a third or maybe a half, and you put them where it wants to be.
There you go. And that's really, we learned about that. Never plant anything where, you know, it's so small now, but everything grows.
Everything grows. And your trees that you planted last fall, if you have them staked up, go out, first of all, they don't need stakes any longer. They only need stakes for a little bit. They need to be able to move in order to be able to make a strong trunk. But more importantly, they have grown since September, and they are being choked by their ties.
Bonnie, we got to go.
Goodbye.
Happy summer. I will see you soon.
I hope so.
Dear Mary Maids, please clean the kitchen and the cabinets and the floors and the chairs. And I wish you could clean the dog. Colin is now feeding himself. Thanks, Megan.
Hi, Megan. No worries. We got it all cleaned up. Let's hope Colin gets past the spaghetti flinging stage soon. Till then, we've got you covered. See you next time, Mary Maids.
SkillSource specializes in assessing and guiding youth, adults, and laid-off workers who want to improve their skills. Here you can attend in-depth workshops to assess skills and interests, make career plans, and learn computer basics.
Learning centers provide eligible youth and adults individualized computer-assisted basic education. Vocational training is arranged with approved providers like community colleges or on the job with businesses.
Don't wait any longer. Let's get working on the future you've been dreaming about.
Welcome back to this Tuesday edition of Wake Up in Wenatchee Valley. I am Dan Kuntz. Got about a minute left in this program, so let's take a look at that weather forecast one more time, specifically the flash flood watch, which was issued by the National Weather Service about 2:30 this morning. They're a little worried, as you might imagine. What does this flash flood watch mean? First of all, it goes from 11 o'clock this morning till 11 o'clock this evening. Yeah, what's going on is there is a slow-moving, low-pressure system that's just kind of sitting almost really right over the Wenatchee Valley, and it's spinning around counterclockwise, and it's going to bring in some moist and unsettled air, and that means we could see some thunderstorms, and that means heavy rainfall, and that means a flash flood watch, especially in the burn scar areas of Chelan and Okanagan counties. As you look at that map there, the farther north you go, the better your odds are of some severe thunderstorms, which could lead to a flash flood. They may miss the Wenatchee Valley, for that matter, altogether. It's possible. Anyway, then things calm down for the 4th of July weekend. Provided this show wasn't canceled, I'll see you tomorrow. Take care. Bye-bye.